everyone, Trienne here, your leadership performance coach, with another interview with someone from our community. And I would just encourage you at this point, I've met so many fantastic people through the power of social networking. And I would just encourage you, if you have not, jumped into a group or reached out and added a friend, or maybe even had some sort of communication with somebody who maybe you're like, I really enjoy their content, their positive pieces of my feed, reach out to that person and just let them know, you love what they're putting out there. You'd love to connect a little bit more, because I cannot believe the number of great conversations that I've had through the social channel. But also just the opportunity to really find out the difference that people are making in this world. It's really incredible. So without further ado, I'd love to bring on the next guest for our Be That Create That social channel. And as you know, we're going to be sharing this on the YouTubes and on the Facebooks and on our podcast. So wherever you are consuming this content, I really know that you're going to enjoy our guest today. Let me bring her on from backstage. Hello, hello.
Hello. Hi. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm so excited that we were able to make this connect. We were just chatting about the fact that for you, it's the end of your day and it's kind of midday for me. So I really appreciate you making the time.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely welcome. I mean, I just had my dinner before I came on because it is 6 p.m. So, I'm good to go. Good to go.
That's so great. Okay, so why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to our community, kind of share, what you're doing and what you're creating right now.
Yeah, sure. So my name is Dr. Florencia, and I'm based in London, UK, and I'm a psychologist and a relationship coach. And I help modern day women change their unfulfilling and unhealthy dating and relationship habits, and provide them with evidence-based tools to, create the relationship that they desire, basically. So that is what I do. Mm-hmm.
I love that. So when you're thinking about that, what led you up to where you're at right now, where you're like, okay, so I've got my psychology, right? And I know where I'm going with that. I have a minor in psychology, so obviously I'm not as adept to it as you, but I do feel like I use it on an everyday basis.
Absolutely.
So how did you get to where you're at today?
Well, I mean, long story short, I have been working in the field of mental health for about 7 to 8 years, and I've worked in various settings in the community. I've worked with kids, worked in prison, worked with adults in the community. So, as I've had a very varied experience in terms of like psychology. But what I came to notice as I embarked on my counseling psychology doctorate training, I found myself attracting, I would actually say, the same type of client, which was women, millennial women of marginalized backgrounds. And they were all experiencing quite similar themes in life, shall I say. So they were struggling with relationships. They were struggling to kind of find a sense of purpose in life. I wasn't quite sure where they were at. And I helped them through that. And I found that incredibly rewarding, not only because, I mean, in and of itself, offering therapy in and of itself is rewarding, but I was helping women who were basically at the same stage in life as I was. So being able to essentially hold their hand through that, I don't know, just felt so incredibly meaningful to me, and someone who isn't, well, I'm an only child. So I always kind of like seeked advice from, from my friends and, cousins, etc. And I felt like I was able to offer that additional sense of intimacy to the work that I was doing, because we were, going through kind of like similar phases in our lives. So that's how I ended up thinking, okay, well, maybe I could branch this out and embark on coaching and, and offer, a package basically for women who have been serving for over, almost 7, 8 years now. So yeah.
I love that. And when you think of the word fulfillment, I sometimes say in our community, I'll say something like, you get to a point where you feel uncomfortable being comfortable. And I think that we as women sometimes think that it is selfish for us to go after what we, that feeling of being fulfilled. So we also talk a lot about how, leadership is about learning how to lead yourself. So first of all, how would you kind of explain leadership in your own life? And then how you're able to help women who are maybe struggling with trying to find that fulfillment?
Yeah, sure. So leadership for me, in terms of what it looks like for me, is always making sure that your voice is heard, regardless of how that might exposes you to pushback or whatever consequences that might have. I feel like your voice is important.
Mhm.
And it's valuable. And I've always had that kind of I would say rebellious streak about me as well. I always push boundaries, and always wanted to, go against the grain. Let's say, and that has served me well in my career.
Mhm.
So that has also enabled me to, serve underserved communities, within mental health and psychology. So I take pride, in taking leadership roles and taking steps to ensure that the voiceless are heard,
Mhm.
and amplify their voices. So that is also what I teach in my work. I mean, as a therapist and as a coach, to make sure that you uplift yourself and that you center your needs and you center your voice,
Mhm.
and let that lead your way, in your journey. So yeah, that is where I'm at with that.
I love that. So when you think about, you said you're to the point now where, we're really serving modern high achieving women.
Yeah.
So high achieving can almost kind of be this almost like that busy badge of honor, you know what I mean? But when
Yeah.
you think of high achieving, what do you feel like is the struggle for someone who would kind of self-identify as I'm high achieving? Like
Mm.
what's the struggle with that?
I think the struggle of what I've come across is that women, especially in this day and age, and the women who are from more marginalized backgrounds as well, they tend to have to hold so many hats at the same time, right? So they have to go to, to college, or as we would call it, university. They have to have, a number of degrees. They have to have this idealistic career, and they pour all of their energy into that, and they have to have their house, and they have to have the nice car, and all of these different things, right? And it's also, in a sense, a lot of the time a trauma response, because more often than not they come from an environment where things are scarce. So in order for them to, not have to go through that again, they have to ensure that, they've got all their ducks in a row, and that they achieve all that they could possibly can, But that in and of itself is great, but that then also comes with sacrifices. So, being able to look after yourself, right? That becomes an afterthought. Having healthy, sustainable relationships that are reciprocal, that is often then lacking, because you're investing so much energy into everything else around you. But the thing that fulfills you internally, which, and for everyone else, which is having affection, having someone to take care of you emotionally, mentally, you know all of these different things are then put in on the back burner. So yeah, so we may have everything in the world, but in terms of like our emotional well-being, that is then suffering in some
Well,
cases.
and sometimes I think, we as high achievers, or we that maybe have a stronger personality, when it comes to relationships,
Mm,
I
yeah.
I see women almost kind of bring themselves back or down because they don't want to. Yeah, the first thought makes me think they don't want to offend their
Mm,
partner.
mm,
But so my husband and I, we both are in positions where we have to make decisions all the time. Like we are kind of the alphas at where we're at. And
yeah.
what's funny is that we get so frustrated on a day off together because neither of us wants to be in charge. We're always in charge at work, and we're like, when we're at home, neither of us wants to be in charge, but one of us has to be, right? So
Mm,
when you hear relationships like that, what is something that you would suggest to try to maybe help with that balance? Or if a woman is feeling like she can't or shouldn't stand up and be that leader in her home?
Mm. It's an interesting one, right? Because I think you've got two sides to it. You've got a side where, as you're describing, two alphas, and then there's this almost like power imbalance in the sense that who does certain chores and who looks after the more maybe feminine, I don't know, aspects to maintaining a household. But then you've also got on the other side where they, women want to have a more, I don't know, more masculine or more dominant and more alpha, guy. But then, yeah, more often than not, the person that they maybe meet either want to dampen their, I don't know, I would say their drive or their personality, or they compete, right? You get that as well, and then it becomes a very contentious relationship. So for me, in terms of like my standpoint, and I always go back down to values. Like, what is it that you would value in a relationship? If you could just draw back on everything else, all the materialistic stuff and all of that, and traditional gender roles, let's say, if we forget all of that or just put that to the side, at the core of everything, like, what matters the most to you? Is it that you want quality time? Is it that you want to feel like you're being looked after, so that someone is of service to you? And what does that look like then? Make it more tangible so that you can assess what your current situation looks like. And if it doesn't feel like it is aligned with what you find the most important, then you need to take some steps and make changes within that. But more often than not, we get so distracted by everything else that we actually forget, well, what is it actually that makes me feel fulfilled in my relationship? And then go from there. And also another thing is, in this day and age, we can outsource things as well.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's maybe like a very simple concept, and you think, oh yeah, of course, of course you can do that, but it's not really. So there are a lot of people still thinking that they should juggle everything at what by themselves, and it doesn't necessarily have to be that way. And some things that we are, experience a lot of tension around can be resolved by simply outsourcing that. So sometimes we are in our own way.
Yeah, isn't that the truth? Oh my gosh. The
Yeah.
other thing I think of is at the times where I felt like my relationship was headbutting. It was because I was expecting something from my partner that I never told them I was expecting. And I mean, I think we can do this in work just as much as we can do this in our relationships at home or even with our friends, is that I was like, well, why doesn't he see that this needs to be done? Well, you didn't give him the chance to see it. Like, you're automatically mad about it.
Yeah.
I had to step back. I found that I had to step back and go, okay, but so did I ask? Did I suggest? Did I use my voice to share what it is that I felt like I needed? Or did I just get mad because someone didn't notice? And we have to remember the people around us, no matter the relationship, like, they're not mind readers.
I was
It's
just about to
communication.
say,
Yes.
yeah, absolutely. People are not mind readers. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I come across this, in therapy all the time. My clients would tell me like how frustrated they are, for example, if they are dating someone new, like, oh, well, yeah, they haven't done this and this, and and that has left me really disappointed and frustrated, and I don't know what to do. And I'm like, well, what was the conversation like? And so, well, what conversation? So, well, I mean, did you not have a conversation about this? Did you not say that this is what you are expecting? Because if you're not outlining what it is that you're expecting, how are they meant to meet your expectations then? I'm like, oh, yeah, I didn't think of that. But then when you then unpack, what then comes to the fore is, oh, okay, well, if I outline my expectations, that then sets me up for potentially getting rejected or potentially getting disappointed anyway, because I've outlined what I'm expecting and they may not necessarily meet those expectations. And then what? I was like, well, I mean, but that is unfortunately part and parcel of being in a relationship. You have to make yourself vulnerable. And sometimes things may not necessarily go as you might hope, but you can resolve things. I mean, there is conflict resolution, there is communication, open communication. It is something that you constantly have to work on. And you cannot expect someone to know exactly what you want, how you want it, when you want it, because that is just not reality. And it's just unfortunate, because I think that movies, TV shows, social media has really I don't know, kind of set such an unrealistic kind of expectation of what relationships should be. It should all be roses and sunshine, and you should meet someone and there's this massive spark, and then you just fall in love, and you just walk into the sunset together, and whatever else. But that is just not reality. Like, relationships requires work, it requires vulnerability, it requires communication. And yeah, if you're not open to that, then you may just have to pause and consider why that is, and unpack that for for yourself.
Yeah, I think that vulnerability, I mean, that's a leadership decision right there. I'm going to either choose, because I know that this is not the way that I want to see this going. So I'm either going to choose to have a conversation about it, or I'm going to choose to be just internally frustrated. And that's not going to get me anywhere, but feeling like maybe ego gets in the way of that, right?
Oh yes, absolutely. Yeah, ego plays a huge part. And again, like you said, it goes back to needing to be vulnerable, because how is the other person supposed to connect to you if you've got a massive wall up?
Sometimes I think I have to I flip that switch, right? So we'll talk about morning routines here in a minute, but one of the things that I do in my morning routine is just in my mind, think about the things that I am grateful for. And in many cases, if I find myself getting upset about something with my partner, I'll say to myself, well, I'm so grateful and thankful for him because of this. I'm so grateful and thankful for him because of this. And it allows just that mindset shift enough, because we also have, there's that piece of acceptance. You chose this person, and there's so many reasons that you chose them. And okay, so they didn't take the trash out last night. Come on. Let's lead ourselves through our emotions. Let's lead ourselves through our expectations. And so in my morning routine, I'll do that. I'm so grateful and thankful for, I'm so grateful and thankful for, to try to flip that mindset. That helps me feel like I'm a little bit more connected in my relationship and appreciating that person for what they bring to the table. When we think about, what makes us successful using those morning routines, maybe yours isn't a morning thing, but is there something that is a non-negotiable for you that you feel like sets you up for success, either in your business or your relationships?
I think grabbing an opportunity to connect mind and body, whether it's going to the gym, whether it's stretching and meditation, or mindfulness, really good one. Oh my gosh, mindfulness, I absolutely love, especially when I'm having my shower. And bear with me, let me explain. So,
your thoughts is where it's at, for sure.
Yes, look, because what I found is that with mindfulness and being able to zoom into one moment, in the present moment, as you're having that experience, let's say, it just elevates it so much more, because you're then able to analyze the different aromas that you're smelling, from your shower gel, your bath gel, or whatever the case may be. And the water, feeling the water on your skin and how your skin reacts to that. I mean, it's just a wonderful, wonderful experience. So yeah, mindfulness, 10 out of 10. Yep.
Yeah. Yes. And again, that goes back to me thinking, what am I grateful and thankful for? Because in the moment, I'm literally stopping myself and going, what are you doing, Trienne? Is this how you want to feel? Is this how you want to think? Is this how you want to act? Is this the person you want to embody? Right. So making that conscious choice to lead yourself through those emotions. And I'm not saying like push them down and forget that they're there, but you have a part in why you feel like this. So taking the lead on that. So I love that. So obviously I've had you on hot seat now for 20 minutes. I thank you again for your time. But if our community wants to engage with you a little bit more, find out more about what it is that you're doing, where your vision is taking you and how you're serving, how would they best be able to follow or get a hold of you?
Sure. So I'm the most active on YouTube and Instagram. So both handles are the same. So it's at Dr. Florencia and underscore. So yeah, that's where you can best find me. I mean, I've got my TikToks and my Facebooks and all of the things. But I'm most active on those two platforms, so you can find me there. Yeah, I think that's it really in terms of social media.
Wonderful. And I'm sure that, the community will hear more from you as we go as well. I love YouTube just for a quick little, like you were saying, you've got time to yourself, mindfulness in the shower. Sometimes in the mornings, I will just turn on a YouTube and just listen to that. And it's just, my opportunity while I'm getting around to get in a little bit of like those thoughts as well. Also, again, I've had you on here for however long. Do you want to share what we were talking about a little earlier or something that you've been working on?
Yes. No, thank you. So I've got a freebie for your audience. All they have to do is go to thepowerofpause.info/workbook. And basically what they will find on there is a workbook that assesses partner compatibility based on values. So, it's based on, the conversation that we had today, but yeah, it's just an extension of that. So, if you go on there and just put in your name and your email so I can send it over to you, you can complete that in your own time. And yeah, I really look forward to how you guys get on with that.
I love that. And people love putting their information in there and just I feel like it's like when we were teenagers and we were reading horoscopes in the back of a magazine. Where you're just like, I must know. I have to know.
Yeah. Exactly.
Oh gosh. Well, my final question for you is, first of all, do you have any questions that you'd like to ask me? And is there any way that I can help serve, you or your community or the things that you're working on right now?
Well, what is perhaps the advice that you would give yourself maybe like when you were maybe five years ago in your journey? Like, what advice would you give yourself 5 years ago?
It's so funny because sometimes I see on the social platforms, they'll be like 3 words that you would, say to yourself when you were 16. And I always put, don't date him. But I'm oh gosh.
It's not worth it.
Don't date him. But in truthfully, so when I think about advice I would have given myself 5 years ago, I feel like I took it, and I would share that is I was really wanting, one of the things on my list is I wanted to teach a college course. I've always wanted to teach an intro to business course or an intro college course. And I had an opportunity come up for me in, I want to say it was 2018, to be able to teach at our local community college. And in order to do that, the company that I was working for at the time, I said to them, for me to be able to do this course and still have some family balance, it means that I would only work 38 hours instead of 40 hours. And they said that was not going to work for them. And I thought, then I guess this is my notice. Like, I wanted to do that so badly. And I was feeling so confined within my 4 walls. So I left that company after being with them for 8 years. And I loved the company, but I just felt very restricted. And I just had to go with my gut. And I was like, this will work out. I'm leaning more into what I wanted to do, which was teaching and coaching and workshops and things like that. And I cannot believe how beautiful, how many different opportunities and collaborations have come out of just that one choice to go from, like I said earlier, going from feeling so uncomfortable in comfort to going, what's available, what's out there, what opportunities. So I would say that that's probably the best advice, is just to listen to yourself when it comes to what do you want to do, and
Wow.
how can you fit that into where you're at right now, and see how it can just progress in the future, and just be open to it.
Wow. You've got no idea how timely that is. So yes, thank you.
It always is, right? It always is. Oh my gosh.
You.
Well, thank you so much for being on with us today. I have really enjoyed our interview, as obviously our listeners and viewers will as well. And I can't wait to have more of you inside the Female Leader headquarters as you get opportunities to come in there and kind of share the things that you're working on as well.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me once again. It was a lovely conversation. Thank you.
All right, guys, thank you so much for joining us in this episode on the Be That Create That channels. And we will talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.